People aren't having kids anymore. I found this post on Reddit that I wanted to read out to you, and since I'm filming on my phone, I got it printed out here and I'll have it on the side. But I found it very relevant, especially in this current culture, whether we're figuring out if we should have children or not, or if it's even worth it to have children at all, and why is it such a pressure to have kids when no one wants kids anymore. Sometimes it makes me a little sad to see how much life has changed. More and more young people today are choosing not to have children, focusing instead on careers, independence, or just trying to survive in a tough world. I understand it. Life is expensive, uncertain, and often overwhelming. But we can't ignore what this trend is doing to our societies, especially here in Europe and in America. Birth rates are dropping fast. Whole countries are aging, shrinking. If this continues, there might come a time when the cultures and people that built these places with their unique traditions and values are simply gone, replaced not just demographically, but culturally too. This isn't about blaming anyone, it's just a quiet grief for what might be lost, a way of life, a heritage, a future that once seemed certain. What's interesting to me is that I think that this is typically a very Gen Z type of issue. We see the way the world is going. We see that our world, our society isn't really here for us to take care of us. And so a lot of us are thinking about the consequences of actually bringing another human being in this world. Whether it is worth it to go through all the immense turmoil, whether it's worth it to sacrifice our freedom, our independence for the sake of our future. I think when I look back at the older generation, my parents, my grandparents, and having conversations with these people, you realize that a lot of the reason why they had children is very indicatively, culturally, it was the thing to do. It was also a pressure by society, by other people around us. We see people having children time and time again, and then we think to ourselves, oh, we should probably do the same thing. And now in our society, it's more and more accepted to not have children because it's seen as a little bit more responsible with the way the world is going. There's a lot of work that goes into it. We recognize all of the really crappy things that happen to children of parents that are typically have mental issues or aren't ready to have children or are pressured to have children. And so our generation is often really in the process of overthinking all of these things. We reflect on the older generations and the ways in which we can change. And so people don't really want to have kids anymore. And that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I struggle with this notion as well. Whether I want to go through the pain, the tolerance to birth a child in this world that's going to shit. And a lot of us are worrying about that. But there's that little teensy little element within us, not all of us, but some of us, that says, why is it that we're doing everything that we're doing? What's the point? And a lot of people would argue that it's unfair to put our purpose onto a child. But honestly, that's kind of really our biological purpose, really. Trying to fill that gap with something else, with something different, is totally possible. Is totally 100% possible. However, for most of society, for most of people, there's also that tangible itch to have something mean something. To have our things that we work for go towards something else of ours. A sort of leaving behind a legacy, right? Now, whether that matters or not is really up to debate. Because at the end of the day, we all kind of die, and nobody matters. Nothing that you leave behind really will last forever, because it doesn't. Apparently, that's the way of life, everybody. So unfortunately, our generation will face a loss because we've gotten to observe everything around us, all of the things that went wrong. We are children of parents that were pressured to have children, that felt like they culturally had to in order to fit into society. And now more and more than ever, people are deciding not to fall victim to this pressure. And that's why the birth rates are declining for a lot of different reasons. But it's also a pendulum swing. A lot of this is. On one hand, it's going to be like this for a little while, where a lot of our generation are going to refuse to have kids. But then once our generation grows older, and we see all of the things that we lack or that we don't gain from having children, which is a sort of different sense of purpose and fulfillment, which really can't be replicated unless it's just having a child. It is a very unique experience that really cannot be replicated. I think our generation is really going to suffer the consequence of not experiencing that sense of fulfillment. And maybe that's a good thing, really. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a bad thing. Maybe just like everything else, the sun still goes down and we wake up another day and years and years and years and years pass and we realize we probably should have done this thing. With the way the world is going, why would you want kids? It's responsible of us to think about all of the consequences, about making sure our child lives in a home that isn't riddled with mental health, making sure that society functions the way that it is, that culture isn't going downhill, that education continues to go downhill as well. Why would you want to put a child in this world when the world is really genuinely suffering? And a lot of us know this now. And we reflect upon our lives and the lives of our parents and to think to ourselves, why is it that we want to do this? We're a lot more reflective, more existential, more worried about things. And to be honest, I think that that is a generational thing, because we've seen what it means to be a child of people or parents who felt pressured to have children, or weren't ready to have children, or weren't mentally sound to have children, who weren't aware of all of their mental fortitudes. We're children, we're victims of this. And it's up to us to unvictimize ourselves and take control of our lives and the lives of our children if we choose to have them. And so it's not only about choosing not to have children as being the more responsible outcome, but also having children much later in life when we're accustomed, when we have our career, our jobs, our financial situation in order. And that's what it means to be responsible. And that is the fate of our generation. We get to choose how it is that we want to live our lives. And that is the beauty of life. That is genuinely the beauty of life. And that is the genuine beauty of our generation, is that we have the awareness that we have a choice, that we do not need to succumb to the pressures of bearing children. And even though there are going to be people that are going to say, oh no, you need to have a child because you'll have no purpose in life if you don't have a child. And to a certain extent, that's true, right? Because there's a certain essence that a child brings that nothing else quite compares to it, really. It's a sort of unique sense of purpose and meaning that is selfless, but also at the same time is also quite selfish, right? Nothing is ever black or white with these things. It never really is. And that's why a lot of people are choosing not to have kids. And I genuinely get it, because I think the same way too. I worry all the time about whether I want to bear a child in this world, whether I want to make the child, my child, suffer this existence, whether it's me just wanting to fulfill myself, or whether it is a genuine desire to bear children that drives me forward. Whether I'm able with my body to go through all of the changes and pain and suffering that it means to birth a child. All of these worries and anxieties that succumb me. No wonder people aren't having children, because nobody wants to sacrifice their independence and their freedom. Because once you get a taste of it, up until a few years go by and you realize, oh, I regret having this, freedom, independence tastes quite good. It does. And in reality, no matter what you choose, no matter if you choose to have children or not, it means sacrificing another experience. So whether you choose not to have children, you'll never experience what it is to have a child, and same vice versa. And so you have to make a choice being okay with never being able to experience the other. And now, really, it's up to all of us to decide whether we want to do that or not. But us as women, we get pressured into having children, really. By people around us, by society, by older generations saying that, well, no, you have to have children because that's your purpose. That's your, you're just a womb to have children. But now, what we could do? We could say, fuck you, and do whatever the fuck we want. And we won't realize the detriments or the benefits until it's too late. That's it. Thanks for watching.